Bullies started mocking the new girl and tried to slap her cheeks. Big mistake. She got furious and beat them up. Maya Novak kept her head down as she navigated the crowded hallways of Westlake High School. At 16, she was the new girl. Again, this was her third school in 4 years thanks to her father's military career. Each move meant starting over, learning new faces, new rules, new social hierarchies. At 5'4" with a slight frame, wavy brown hair that never seemed to cooperate, and thick-rimmed glasses that hid her hazel eyes, Maya didn't exactly stand out in a crowd. That was usually how she preferred it. What no one at Westlake knew, what no one at any of her schools ever knew at first, was that Maya had been training in mixed martial arts since she was 7 years old. Her father, a former Army Ranger, had insisted she learn to defend herself. 9 years of intensive training had transformed her into a formidable fighter with lightning-fast reflexes and a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She could take down opponents twice her size without breaking a sweat, but Maya never advertised this fact. Her parents had always taught her that fighting was only for self-defense, never for showing off. True strength is knowing when not to fight, her father would say. Besides, being the perpetual new kid meant she was always trying to blend in, not stand out. Westlake High was a sprawling brick building on the outskirts of town, with nearly 2,000 students divided into clear social strata. Maya had been there for exactly 2 weeks, and she'd already mapped out the danger zones: the back hallway near the gym, the smoking area behind the cafeteria, and the east stairwell where the self-proclaimed kings of the school held court. Those kings were led by Vince DeRosa, a senior with perfectly styled dark hair, expensive clothes, and a perpetual smirk that teachers somehow never seemed to notice. His main sidekicks were Travis Wheeler, a linebacker on the football team with more muscle than sense, and Dylan Parks, a lanky boy with cold eyes who seemed to take genuine pleasure in others' discomfort. They moved through the school like they owned it, and in many ways they did. Maya had heard whispers about them before she'd even opened her locker on the first day. Stay away from Vince and his crew, a friendly girl named Aisha had warned her. They pick someone new every semester. Last year they drove a freshman to transfer schools. For the first 2 weeks, Maya had successfully avoided their attention. She took alternate routes between classes, ate lunch in the library, and made herself as forgettable as possible. But invisibility, she was learning, had a limited shelf life. It began, as these things often do, with something small. Maya was hurrying to chemistry class, arms full of books, when she rounded a corner and nearly collided with Travis. "Watch it!" he snapped, looking her up and down with narrowed eyes. "Sorry," Maya mumbled, sidestepping him and continuing on her way. "Hey!" he called after her. "You're new, right? What's your name?" Maya hesitated, then responded without turning around. "Maya, Maya," he repeated, drawing out the syllables mockingly. "Better watch where you're going next time, Maya." She could feel his eyes on her back as she walked away, and something in her stomach tightened. She recognized the evaluating look in his eyes. She'd seen it before at other schools, the look of a predator sizing up potential prey. The next day, her books were knocked out of her hands as she stood at her locker. She looked up to see Dylan walking away, laughing with a group of his friends. "Oops," he called over his shoulder. "Butterfingers." A few days later, it was Vince himself, sliding into the seat next to her in the cafeteria when she'd thought it was safe to eat there instead of the library. "So you're the new charity case," he said conversationally as if they were old friends. "Maya, nobody from nowhere." Maya kept her eyes on her food. "Just trying to eat lunch. Aren't we all?" Vince grinned at his own non-joke. "The thing is, new girl, there's a certain way things work around here, and rule number 1 is knowing your place." He leaned closer, his voice dropping. "And your place isn't here with the normal people. Your place is, well, I'm not sure yet, but we'll figure it out for you." Maya felt her muscles tense, her body instinctively preparing for a threat. She consciously relaxed, focusing on her breathing the way her sensei had taught her. "This isn't the dojo. This isn't a match. You can't fight here." "Thanks for the welcome," she said flatly, gathering her things. "But I can find my own place." Vince's hand shot out, gripping her wrist. Not hard enough to hurt, but firmly enough to make a point. "That's not how this works." For a split second, Maya calculated exactly how she could break that grip, how easily she could flip Vince over the table, how quickly she could put him in a hold that would have him gasping for air. But instead, she did what was expected of the shy new girl. She pulled her arm away and hurried out of the cafeteria, the sound of laughter following her. The incidents escalated from there. Her books were knocked to the floor regularly. Her locker was jammed shut with gum. Whispers followed her in the hallways. Rumors about why she had transferred, crude jokes about her appearance, her clothes, her quiet demeanor. In class, anonymous paperballs would hit the back of her head when the teacher wasn't looking. It was nothing Maya hadn't experienced before, and nothing she couldn't handle. She kept to herself, did her work, and focused on getting through each day. At night, she would train in the garage they'd converted to a small home gym, working through her frustrations on the punching bag, reminding herself why she didn't fight back. It's never worth it. It only makes things worse. It's what they want, a reaction. But Vince and his crew seemed to take her non-reaction as a further challenge. They were used to getting a response. Tears, anger, pleading. Maya's calm detachment clearly irritated them, made them push harder. 3 weeks into the semester, Maya found herself cornered in the east stairwell after school. She'd stayed late to work on a project in the library, and the halls were mostly empty. She saw them coming, Vince leading, with Travis and Dylan flanking him like loyal lieutenants, but there was nowhere to go. "Well, look who it is," Vince said, his voice echoing in the empty stairwell. Maya, nobody all alone. Maya gripped the strap of her backpack tighter. "I need to get home. Do you hear that, guys?" Vince looked at his friends. "She needs to get home, probably has to go cry to her mommy about how mean everyone is at her new school." "I've seen her in gym class," Travis added. "She always changes." In the bathroom stall, probably embarrassed about her body. He made a face. Not that there's much to see. Maya felt her cheeks flush. It was true that she changed privately, not out of embarrassment, but because she didn't want anyone to see the defined muscles that would give away her training. "Just let me pass," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Or what?" Dylan stepped closer. "What are you going to do about it?" "Nothing," Maya thought. "I'm going to do nothing because that's what I always do." That was the rule. It had been the rule at her last school and the one before that. Keep your head down, don't make waves. We'll be moving again soon enough, except her father had promised her they were staying this time, at least until she graduated. This wasn't a temporary situation she could wait out. This was her life now. "I just want to go home," she repeated, hating how small her voice sounded. Vince moved in front of her, blocking her path completely. "You know what your problem is, Maya. You think you're better than us. Walking around all quiet like you're so superior, you can't even bother to react." "I don't think that at all," Maya said. "Liar," Dylan hissed. "Everyone talks about how you look at people like they're beneath you." This wasn't true. Maya made a point of not making eye contact with anyone, but she knew it didn't matter. They'd already decided who she was and what she deserved. "Move," she said, with slightly more force this time. "Make me," Vince challenged, taking another step toward her, and then Travis was behind her, too close, and she felt his hand slide down her back toward her rear. "Maybe what she needs is a little attention," he said with a laugh in his voice. "Show her how we welcome the new girls here." Maya felt a calm clarity wash over her. Time seemed to slow down as she felt Travis's hand moving toward her backside. Without thinking, pure instinct and training taking over, she spun around, catching his wrist in a grip that made him gasp in surprise. In one fluid motion, she twisted his arm behind his back, using his own momentum to slam him face first into the wall. "What the—" Vince began, but he didn't finish the sentence because Maya had already released Travis, who slumped to the floor in shock, and turned her attention to the ringleader. She moved with a speed that seemed impossible for someone her size, sweeping Vince's legs out from under him with a practiced kick. He landed hard on his back, the air rushing from his lungs in a pained wheeze. Dylan, seeing his friends taken down in seconds, rushed at Maya with a wild, angry yell. She sidestepped easily, using his own momentum against him, and flipped him over her hip. He landed next to Vince with a thud that echoed through the stairwell. The entire confrontation had lasted less than 10 seconds. Maya stood in the center of the fallen bullies, her breathing even, her stance balanced and ready. 9 years of training had made these movements as natural to her as walking. "Don't ever touch me again," she said, her voice low and controlled. "Don't speak to me. Don't look at me. Leave me alone." Travis was the first to recover, pushing himself up from the floor, his face red with a mixture of pain, shock, and humiliation. "You're fucking crazy," he gasped. "No," Maya corrected, adjusting her glasses calmly. "I'm trained. There's a difference." She stepped over Vince, who was still trying to catch his breath, and headed down the stairs. Only when she was outside the building, the cool afternoon air hitting her face, did she allow herself to feel the weight of what had just happened. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from the rush of adrenaline and the release of weeks of pent-up tension. "Dad is going to kill me," she thought. But deep down, she knew he would understand. This wasn't about showing off or seeking a fight. This was genuine self-defense. What Maya didn't realize was that they hadn't been alone in that stairwell. Aisha, the girl who had first warned her about Vince and his crew, had been coming up the stairs and had witnessed the entire confrontation. By the next morning, the story had spread throughout Westlake High like wildfire, growing more elaborate. With each retelling, Maya arrived at school to find people staring at her, conversations stopping when she walked by, but it was different from before. There was no mockery in these stares, no cruel amusement. Instead, she saw something new: respect, awe, and more than a little fear. Is it true? Aisha cornered her before first period. Did you really put all three of them on the ground? Maya felt her stomach drop. I don't want to talk about it. They're saying you're like some kind of ninja, another girl chimed in, that you flipped Travis over your head. That's not exactly. Vince is telling everyone he let you win, a boy Maya had never spoken to added. But Dylan's got a bruise, the size of a softball on his hip, and Travis can barely turn his head. Maya closed her eyes briefly. This was exactly what she hadn't wanted. Attention, rumors, becoming the center of gossip, but there was no undoing what had happened. She made it through the morning in a haze of whispers and stares. By lunchtime, she'd heard at least 5 different versions of the fight, each more exaggerated than the last. According to some, she had knocked all 3 boys unconscious. Others claimed she had martial arts weapons hidden in her backpack. One particularly creative freshman was telling anyone who would listen that Maya was in a secret government training program. But the most surprising part was that Vince, Travis, and Dylan were nowhere to be seen. They weren't in the cafeteria at their usual table, weren't patrolling the hallways between classes. It was as if they had vanished. Maya was sitting alone at lunch, picking at her food and trying to ignore the stares, when she felt someone slide onto the bench across from her. She looked up to find Vince sitting there, but not with his usual swagger. His shoulders were hunched, his eyes downcast. A bruise was forming at the base of his throat where he'd hit the floor. What do you want? Maya asked, immediately on guard. Vince glanced around, clearly uncomfortable with the dozens of eyes watching them. I just wanted to say, what happened yesterday shouldn't have happened, Maya finished for him. And it won't happen again if you and your friends leave me alone. Vince nodded slowly. That's fair. He paused, then added in a lower voice, Where did you learn to fight like that? Despite herself, Maya felt a small smile tug at her lips. My dad started teaching me when I was 7. I've got a black belt in BJJ, and I've been doing MMA training since I was 10. Vince's eyes widened. Seriously, that's actually pretty cool. An announcement came over the PA system then. Maya Novak, please report to the principal's office. Maya Novak to the principal's office. Maya sighed. She'd been expecting this. Guess someone told, she said, gathering her things. It wasn't me, Vince said quickly, and it wasn't Travis or Dylan either. We didn't tell anyone. Maya looked at him searchingly, trying to detect a lie, but he seemed genuine. Thanks, I guess. As she walked to the principal's office, Maya steeled herself for the worst. Fighting on school grounds was an automatic suspension at most schools, possibly even expulsion. Her parents would be called. There would be discussions about her anger management and appropriate conflict resolution. She'd been through it before at her first school when she'd finally snapped after months of bullying. The irony was that the bullies had received no punishment beyond a stern talking to. Principal Winters was a stern-looking woman with silver hair and piercing blue eyes. She gestured for Maya to take a seat across from her desk. Miss Novak, she began. I've heard some concerning reports about an altercation yesterday afternoon. Maya took a deep breath. Yes, ma'am. Would you care to explain what happened? Maya told her the truth, not embellishing or making excuses. She explained how Vince, Travis, and Dylan had been harassing her for weeks. She described being cornered in the stairwell and how Travis had tried to grope her. She confessed to using her martial arts training to defend herself. I know fighting isn't allowed, she concluded, and I'm prepared to accept whatever punishment you think is appropriate. But I want to be clear that I didn't start this, and I only did what I felt was necessary to protect myself. Principal Winters had listened without interruption, her expression revealing nothing. Now she leaned forward, hands clasped on her desk. Miss A. Novak, are you aware that we have security cameras in all stairwells? Maya's heart sank. No, ma'am. Well, we do, and I've reviewed the footage from yesterday afternoon quite carefully. The principal picked up a remote and turned toward a small screen on her wall. Would you like to see it? Without waiting for a response, she pressed play. The grainy black and white footage clearly showed Maya being cornered, showed Travis's hand moving toward her backside, showed her efficient self-defense moves that put all 3 boys on the ground without causing serious injury. The entire incident, just as Maya had described it, was there on film. Principal Winters paused the video. Sexual assault is a serious offense at this school, Miss Novak. So is physical intimidation and bullying. All three of these young men have been suspended, and Mr. Wheeler is facing additional disciplinary action for his inappropriate touching. Maya blinked in surprise. I'm not in trouble for defending yourself against unwanted sexual contact. Certainly not. Principal Winters' expression softened slightly, though I would appreciate it if you would consider less dramatic methods of self-defense in the future, perhaps a shout for help, or reporting harassment to a teacher before it escalates to this point. Yes, ma'am, Maya said, relief washing over her. That said, the principal continued, your martial arts skills are quite impressive. How a girls' self-defense club could use someone with your expertise. Perhaps you'd consider volunteering as a peer instructor. It might be a more constructive outlet for your abilities. Maya felt a genuine smile spread across her face for the first time in weeks. I'd like that a lot, actually. When Maya returned to class, the whispers followed her, but they were different now. News of the suspended bullies had spread, along with rumors that Maya had been asked to teach self-defense rather than being punished. By the end of the day, 3 different girls had approached her about learning that move she'd used on Travis. The real change came the following week, when Vince, Travis, and Dylan returned from their suspensions. They were subdued, avoiding eye contact with Maya when they passed her in the hallways. Travis, in particular, seemed to give her a wide berth, staring at the floor whenever she was nearby. But on Wednesday, something unexpected happened. Maya was eating lunch with Aisha and a few other girls when Vince approached their table. The conversation immediately died as everyone watched warily. Can I talk to you? He asked Maya. Alone? Maya hesitated, then nodded. I'll be right back, she told her new friends. She followed Vince to a quiet corner of the cafeteria, maintaining a careful distance. What is it? Vince rubbed the back of his neck, clearly uncomfortable. I just wanted to apologize, I guess, for everything. What we did was messed up. It wasn't the most eloquent apology, but the red flush creeping up Vince's neck suggested it was sincere. Okay, Maya said simply. That's it? Okay? What do you want me to say? That I forgive you? I don't know if I do yet. Vince nodded slowly. That's fair. I've been thinking a lot during suspension about why I do the things I do, and I'm not proud of it. You shouldn't be, Maya agreed. I know. He hesitated, then added, my dad, he's kind of a jerk. Always talking about being a man, being tough, not taking crap from anyone, and I guess I thought that's what I was doing, being tough. But really, I was just being him. Maya hadn't expected this level of self-reflection from Vince. She studied his face, seeing vulnerability there that he usually kept carefully hidden. You don't have to be like him, she said finally. You can choose to be better. I don't know how, Vince admitted. Maya considered him for a moment. Well, for starters, you could help me with something. I'm teaching a self-defense workshop for the girls' club next week. It might be helpful to have a volunteer for demonstrations. Vince's eyebrows shot up. You want me to help? After everything? It's not about you, Maya clarified. It's about helping other girls learn to protect themselves. And maybe it'll help you understand how it feels to be on the receiving end of intimidation. A slow smile spread across Vince's face. You're kind of terrifying, you know that. Good, Maya said with a small smile of her own. Remember that the next time you think about bullying someone. The next few weeks brought changes to Westlake High that no one could have predicted. The Girls' Self-Defense Club saw its membership triple, with Maya leading workshops twice a week. Vince, true to his word, showed up as a volunteer, allowing himself to be flipped and pinned by Maya in demonstrations that left the girls cheering. More surprisingly, Dylan joined the art club, where his talent for drawing, previously used mainly for cruel caricatures, found a more positive outlet. Travis, after a stern talking to from his football coach about respecting women, became almost painfully polite, offering awkward apologies to other students he'd bullied in the past. Maya found herself with something she'd never had at any of her previous schools: friends. Real friends who knew her strengths and respected her for them, rather than fearing her or expecting her to hide them. Aisha and several others from the self-defense club became regular lunch companions, and soon Maya was being invited to study, groups and weekend hangouts. One afternoon, about a month after the stairwell incident, Maya was walking home when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned to find Travis jogging to catch up with her. Hey, he said, slightly out of breath. Can I walk with you? I'm heading this way too. Maya nodded cautiously. They walked in silence for a few minutes before Travis spoke again. I never properly apologized to you, he said, for, trying to... He trailed off, his face reddening. Grope me, Maya supplied. Yeah, Travis looked genuinely ashamed. It was wrong, really wrong, and I'm sorry. Why did you do it? Maya asked, genuinely curious. Travis was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, because I thought I could. Because Vince and Dylan were watching, and I wanted to look cool. Because that's what guys like us did to girls like you. Girls like me? Girls who wouldn't fight back, Travis grimaced. Except you did fight back, and you should have. What I did, what I tried to do, it wasn't okay. Maya studied him as they walked. No, it wasn't, but I appreciate the apology. My little sister joined your self-defense class, Travis said after another silence. Lily, she's a freshman. Maya nodded. She remembered Lily, a quiet girl with the same sandy hair as Travis, but none of his confidence. She's got good instincts. Yeah, well, I don't want her to ever feel like she can't protect herself. Travis kicked at a stone on the sidewalk. I don't want her to be afraid of guys like me. Then don't be that guy, Maya said simply. Travis nodded slowly. I'm working on it. When they reached the corner where their paths diverged, Travis offered his hand. No hard feelings? Maya hesitated, then shook it. Getting there. That evening, as Maya trained in the garage with her father, landing precise kicks against the heavy bag, she told him the whole story, how she'd been bullied, how she'd finally fought back, and how things had changed since then. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, she finished. I was afraid you'd be mad that I used my training that way. Her father adjusted her stance slightly, the way he'd been doing since she was 7 years old. Maya, I never taught you to fight, so you could hurt others. I taught you so you would never have to be afraid. But you always said fighting should be the last resort, Maya reminded him. And was it? He asked. Had you tried everything else? Maya thought about the weeks of avoidance, of keeping her head down, of enduring the harassment without complaint. Yes, she said finally. It was the last resort. Her father nodded approvingly. Then you did exactly what you were trained to do. You protected yourself without causing unnecessary harm. He held up the focus mitts. Now show me that combination again. As the semester progressed, the legacy of what the students now called the Stairwell Showdown continued to ripple through Westlake High. The principal implemented a stricter anti-bullying policy. The Girls' Self-Defense Club became one of the most popular extracurricular activities. Vince, who had never shown much academic interest before, discovered a talent for peer mediation. But for Maya, the most significant change was more personal. For the first time, she moved through school without hiding who she was. She still wore her glasses, still struggled with her unruly hair, still preferred books to parties, but she no longer hunched her shoulders or avoided eye contact. She stood tall, spoke clearly, and let her strength show in ways that went beyond physical demonstrations. On the last day before winter break, Maya found a small package in her locker. Inside was a keychain with a tiny pair of brass knuckles, and a note that read, "To the girl who taught us all to stand up for ourselves, thanks for the wake-up call. V, T, and D." Maya smiled as she attached it to her backpack. She'd come to Westlake High expecting to be invisible, to get through the next 2 years without making waves. Instead, she'd found her voice, her confidence, and a place where she truly belonged. As she headed to the cafeteria to meet her friends, Maya reflected on everything that had changed since that day in the stairwell. The bullies had chosen the wrong girl to target, yes, but maybe in a strange way they'd chosen exactly the right one, the one who could show them and everyone else. That strength wasn't about intimidation or fear, but about standing up for what was right, protecting yourself and others, and having the courage to be exactly who you are. Maya pushed open the cafeteria. Doors, her head held high. The shy new girl was gone. In her place stood a young woman who knew her own worth and wasn't afraid to show it.